A warm welcome to everyone. We are live right now, and I'm Sneha, working as the president of Montfort Alumni Association. And today we have a lovely panel discussion that's going to take place. It's going to be about meeting entrepreneurs, all of who are alumni from our association. Many of you all have passed out way earlier. I'd like to mention something important that I know it's a Saturday and many of our panelists have taken time on a weekend to come and be here. So we're really grateful for that. Also, one of our panelists, Taranam, could not make it today. And also, Akriti seems to be a little unwell, but in spite of that, she has joined us here today. So, a warm welcome to all of you. And without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to John. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Sneha. A very warm welcome to one and all present here. I'm just really excited to be here today. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is John. I'm going to be the host for the day. I'm a psychologist and I'm the youngest of this lot. I just passed out last year. So we have a startup. It's called Emote, the Rice House of Healing and Happiness. Our mental health initiative is just 3 months old. So we're basically babies in the field. But I'm really excited to meet you all. With that, a little bit about Psychological Horizons. Psychological Horizons is basically an initiative by Montfort Alumni Association. So it's a very interesting idea. So as you all know, mental health has been a taboo, and finally, we're getting past that, and we have a lot of people who are entering the field now. But with a lot of people entering, people are not sure where to go, how to choose a career path. Yes. So that is how our wonderful, wonderful team of Varsha, Sneha, and everybody came up with this idea of getting together Montfort alumni and having sessions every Saturday for 17 weeks. So we're at the second Saturday now, and today the theme is Meet the Entrepreneurs, and I'm really glad to have the three of you here. Introducing the moderator. The moderator for the day is Maxim. Maxim is, first of all, one of the best professors you can ever come across. So thrilled to have you here with us, Maxim. He's the assistant professor and an academic coordinator at Department of Counseling and Psychology. Maxim is also an alumnus of Montfort. He teaches counseling skills, theories, techniques, and MFT, that is marriage and family therapy. Thank you so much for being here today, Maxim. Next, we move on to the panelists. First, we have Leanne. Leanne is basically an MFT psychological therapist, that is marriage and family therapist. Thank you so much for being here, Leanne. So, Leanne, during the pandemic, she's already been practicing for a while now. But during the pandemic, she realized that there is a very urgent need for mental health awareness, and that's when they started the unopened box. Basically, they have both a website and they're also there on Instagram. And just by word of mouth, which is really beautiful, just by word of mouth, they have reached to people in US, UK, Canada, Germany, Portugal, and so on. And they didn't stop there. Liane and her team, they're also training psychologists now. And it's just really inspiring to see you, Liane. And it's amazing to know that you are an alumni of Montfort. Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have... Thank you. Next, we have Akriti. Personally, I am probably most excited to meet her because I'm a huge fan of Kaha Mind, and she's the founder and CEO of Kaha Mind. I will talk about my emotion with Kaha Mind here. So, I personally love Kaha Mind because a lot of people are spreading awareness about mental health, and everybody has a very different individual touch to it. The thing about Kaha Mind is they simplify it very, very easily. So, their posts are basically like you'll have an image and you'll have them explaining the concept very well. And I know a lot of my friends share their posts, so I know that they are making a difference. And it's just so inspiring to see you here. Thank you so much for being here, Akriti. And next, we have Shivli, who's also a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine. Shivli is the co-founder of Shift Density, and she is my senior. I'm very proud to call her my senior. She's someone I look up to from when I was in college. Shivli is basically a counseling psychologist. sexuality educator, and a PhD scholar. Right now, she's based in Raipur. She's the co-founder of two brands, Shift Density and Instinct Studio and School of Design. So, thank you so much for being here, Shivli, and thank you so much for focusing on the field of sexual health in mental health. We're looking forward to today's session. Over to you, Maxim.
All right. Thank you, John. And once again, thank you, our panelists today, Akruti, Liane, and Shivli. I'm very happy that at least, if not me, my students are entrepreneurs. I'm very happy about that. And not only you, there are others, right? Very good. I think this question has been always asked and bothering students. What do they do after they complete MSc? I think they found some answer in the last session. They're going to find some more answers in the coming sessions. And today, some light will be shed on this question. So let me straight away go into the question. I want to ask you the first of all, this first question. Maybe anyone can begin. Maybe let me put this order first. Akriti, Liane, and Shivli can answer this question. How did you get the idea of entrepreneurship? So Akriti can answer this. In your own
Sure.
words. Yeah.
Um, I honestly don't think I started off wanting to be an entrepreneur. I also think at that point when I was in college, we didn't see a lot of people our age really in the startup field as it is today. So I think at that point, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I obviously started working after I finished my MSc. And luckily, I got roles where I got to manage teams. I got to really sort of think of ideas, I got to present them, I got to run with them. And as I started doing that, I realized it was something I was really enjoying. I really enjoyed coming up with different ideas, different products. I really enjoyed managing teams. I enjoyed mentoring people. I enjoyed this process of learning, and I made a lot of mistakes through the way. I think while this continued, me starting Carmine just became like the most obvious next step. It wasn't something that I thought about much. And as a person, I'm also someone who goes a lot with my gut and my emotion. And it just sort of pointed me to this direction of starting Kaha Mind. And I think that's how entrepreneurship came to me. And I'm sure everyone here will really understand when I say this, that entrepreneurship is not that one step. It's such a continuous work in process. Like even right now, even though I've been an entrepreneur for a while, there are days I wake up and I still feel I'm brand new to this and I don't know what lies ahead. And I think that is really exciting. And the fact that if anyone can find that exciting and if anyone can say that they're okay with no 2 days being the same, I definitely think entrepreneurship is for them.
Thank you, Akriti. So what you're saying is because you were involved in your previous jobs as a mentor, as in leadership positions, eventually you turned out to be you, being a leader, being a administrator, and I'm bringing up your own product, right, in this Kaha Mind, uh, right, institution that you said. Yeah. Lian, can we hear you?
Sure. And my story is sort of similar to Akriti's, but also very different. And I think Maxim knows this because the day I graduated is the day I started my private practice. I started with my first ever client, and it was word of mouth, and it was extremely exciting. And I had a lot of teachers at Montfort who said, "Hey, is this the best idea? Everyone's sitting for placements. Do you really want to start your own thing?" And I said, "Yeah, I believe in it. It's something I want to do." And I started off with my own private practice. It was entirely word of mouth. And I think it was going really nicely. And then I started teaching, and I played individual roles in different places, but it was still me solo working with other people's teams. I started training a lot of continuous professional development in different roles, became a supervisor, and I realized I loved all the aspects of it. And I knew what went into different aspects of being a therapist, how you take it forward. And I sort of didn't want to be confined to just being a teacher, or just being a therapist, or just being a supervisor. I wanted access to all of it. And when the pandemic hit, coincidentally, that was the time when I started taking on interns and training them because I think a lot of people missed access to actually having internships during this period, and for me that hurt personally. And also there was a large inflow of clients, so that's when we started. And then I happened upon IIMB, and we got incubated at IIM Bangalore, which was something that completely took this out of the park because this was my 20-year plan that coincidentally got executed in 6 months, I think. And that's how we started. So like Akriti, there was no real plan saying I want to be an entrepreneur. It was more a sort of, it makes sense right now for me. It felt very intuitive, it felt very emotional, very personal, and there was a need that really needed to be met. And like she said, there are a lot of challenges that come with the job, but as long as you feel motivated enough to say that there are bad days, there are good days, there are fabulous days, right? And you're not just playing one role. I'm not just a therapist or just a supervisor or just a lecturer, but more than that, it's also managing teams, it's also managing people, it's also coordinating your website and your Instagram. And there are just so many things all the time that are in flux. And but as long as you know how to work through that, I think it's a beautiful place to be in.
Great, Leanne. I think, in a sense, I would say necessity was the mother of invention. And the pandemic, you said, while quite a few other businesses dropped or closed, I think this opened up, right? It's a good thing that mental health thrived and you reached out to so many people. One word I think we should emphasize always by word of mouth. That is something very important. Not any great publicity, but just by clients telling other people who are in need, and that way you have reached out to great people. You have been incubated by IIMB. We are very happy about that. Thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
ideas. And Shoot City, you are the latest
Yes.
entrepreneur of Sampurna, or now
Yes.
known as Montfort. So
Yes.
now both so earlier Sampurna and earlier Montfort College now come under one banner. Both are Montfort Institute of Advanced Studies, Montfort College, though,
Yes.
right? So let us listen to your story. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Maxim. So I think listening to both of you, I could relate to some parts, and I think if I can briefly talk about what made it happen. So, I think I started. I come from Raipur, which is comparatively a lesser resource place. We don't in Chhattisgarh. It's a 20-year-old state, and we don't have that many access to resources. And my mother, although she's a psychologist, she started the work in the field of disability many years ago. But then again, I did not get that kind of training over there. So when I came to Bangalore to study, it was quite interesting that from the day one of my UG bachelor's of psychology, I was interning and I was doing a lot of field work. And it just so happened that when I started loving psychology, I also started loving sexuality and dealing with sexuality as a topic, and not something very in a like a taboo manner. And so I have been a sexuality educator for over 8 years now, because from the day one of my work till today, I have been working with sexuality. With regards to mental health professional, that came way later. So for me, it was always that I was never a fully a therapist. I was always a mixture of mental health and sexual health, somewhere in between. And I also very interestingly used to get the clients like that. A lot of my clients would be from queer community, from who would have problems with their sexuality or sexual concerns, and so on and so forth. So that was something that I wanted to do. And even though after my masters I got a lot of job opportunities, I could not find a place which could give equal importance to both of them, and even disability for that matter. Because I feel like a lot of organizations just work with one particular approach, which is definitely fine. We should have those organizations, but I felt like sexuality and disability is something that is very lagging, or which is in very infant stage. So I think when I came back after my graduation and working for about almost a year, I felt quite burnt out, because I was doing some 20 sessions in a week, and that was very like quite a lot for me. I got a lot of placements, like I was hired in a huge hospital here. I was hired as a lecturer. I was given so many other things, but then nothing worked out because, of course, pandemic, and the things changed. and also the kind of work which I was getting was not something that I was looking for. So if you were to ask me why I started, it was because there was no other option for me. I had no other option but to start it, because if I had to do this, for somebody else, I might as well do it for myself, be my own person who is accountable for things. And secondly, another reason is because I genuinely have a lot of love for Central India. I love the South. I have absolute love for what it has given me. But in the end, I come from a place where there is absolute no knowledge of anything. So I never wanted to, go there, speak English always, and see clients which are in a very well sorted life. I wanted a little bit of rawness. I wanted my communities to learn. So I started working in Chhattisgarhi, in Hindi, in a lot of vernacular languages which probably people don't know of. And that really helped. So now with Shift Density, I am really interested in working with local languages and providing that language for people. So that became very interesting for me. And that, like, even for me, it has been only 2 years, not on 1.5 years of being an entrepreneur. And I think that still there is quite a lot of thing that I have not learned or I have to work with. So that really was the point which brought me to this.
Okay, all right. Good to hear, Shivli, that your area is a focused area. I mean, sexuality, sexual health in relation to mental health, right? So that's what you have been doing all through your life, and as you rightly said, you didn't get actually to practice what your passion was, and therefore you had to invent your own space so that you could cater to the needs of people in this domain, and that's how you have been into this. Very good to hear. Yeah. So we may also ask, maybe our viewers are interested, what homework did you all do before actually starting up, before actually venturing into this, diving into this? There's always, I guess, there is some planning involved because you're taking a huge risk, that is leaving a salaried job or whatever, that kind of a thing. So would you like to tell us briefly, maybe Akriti will share, Leanne and Shuli? Yeah, maybe.
I don't think this is going to be a long answer for me because I'm still doing homework. There's like this homework is like an everyday process that is going on. Um, I do think there's a certain amount of planning that is required before you take this leap. But I can say for certain that you will never get 100% of the answers. And you need to be okay with that. So I think some of the homework that someone can think about could be in terms of, what would the next 1 year look like in the best case scenario and in the worst case scenario? And are you okay with both of it before you take that step? And I think those are some questions that I did ask myself before I sort of decided to completely go off on my own, because it can be a little daunting, it can be a little scary. I also know for a fact that at that point, I think this bit has changed a little right now, but I know at that point, there were a lot of people who were also against me doing this, because I think it is easier to take a job where you have your monthly salary coming in, there is security, there might be an appraisal after every year, you will slowly move in a direction that is predictable, and there is nothing wrong with that. But if something inside you says that you want to break out of that pattern and you want to create something for your own, then I think you have to also do the homework of not listening to everyone and listening to yourself. And I think that is also really important, and it's sort of a battle in its own, and I think it's a battle that doesn't really end. There are even days today when I have to try to drown out all the noise and listen to what I really want, listen to what my team is also talking about. So I think when it comes to homework, it's important to sort of make sure that there is a balance, make sure that you are moving in the direction you want to, and you figure out a way to sort of make that happen for yourself. But it's also important to remember that you will not get all the answers. And a lot of us, I know, are very used to saying that, okay, fine, I'll make a checklist of things. And when all of this checks out, I'll take the next step. You might have to think a little differently from that. And I think a good thing would be to also talk to other people who are in this field, who have done something similar, and try to understand from their journey. So I think a panel like this makes a lot of sense, because if there's anyone in the audience right now who is thinking of taking this step, then I can tell you for a fact that if you're thinking about it, you should for sure do it. You should be a little logical about it, of course, but don't look at getting each and every check in there. That might not happen. You will also have to just listen to your gut and take that step forward.
Yeah, what you're saying basically, Asakti, while you do plan, but not all plans are always available, and be ready even what might come on its own. Also listen to your inner voice and go by the gut, right? That's what I'm saying. Very good, interesting. Lian, what would you say?
So I agree with what Akriti has said, and I'd like to add on with different points, which is I think to a large extent being aware of what your passion is, not doing it just because it is a job and it's a nice alternative for a job. Because that's something I hear of a lot, especially when I teach students. Where I remember I had about three students who told me, "Hey, it came some years ago in the Forbes's best 50 jobs to be in. Mental health was one of the top jobs." And in that moment, that sometimes they're not really motivated to do the job as much as the job could possibly fetch you a certain thing or a certain lifestyle. And the first thing I tell anyone who's looking to get not just into entrepreneurship but any job is the first bit of homework you need to do is check what lifestyle you want. Right? Are you someone who wants work life balance? Are you someone who wants something that is going to give you stability? Are you someone who is risk averse? Are you someone who loves risks? Are you open to adventure? Because if you are open to all of this and uncertainty, being an entrepreneur comes with a lot of uncertainty, right? And it's also tackling curveballs, and not just one curveball, multiple curveballs on a regular basis, and it can get overwhelming, right? And part of the homework is also to build up a support system which actually gets you, understands you, and believes in you as much as you believe in yourself, especially for the hard days where you don't believe in yourself. And those days happen because, like Akriti said, there's so much noise where there are enough people who don't believe in you. Sometimes having that team who says, hey, you can do it regardless of whether you can or not, and who actually supports you, because that voice also needs to be equally loud to hold space, that it's not just your lifestyle that's going to change entirely. Work life balance is something that I don't know about Shivali and Akriti, but it changes a lot when you're an entrepreneur. You can be in the middle of dinner and there's something you have to do. You can be somewhere in the middle of something and there's something else that comes up. And it's about saying, if you're looking for a 9 to 5, I will go back home, do this. It's very different, right? There are a lot of things that change up. Support system extremely important, and more importantly also learning to self-care, because it's so easy to burn out, not just by one of the things is I'm still a very practicing therapist because I love my job. I'm someone who's very dedicated to what I do, and I'm also a practicing supervisor and lecturer. So I try to see that I still have that maintained while also running the company. So initially it was overwhelming, where you're just saying there are so many roles to juggle while also checking out all these other things. But the point is to find your balance, and no one can teach you what your balance is. And learning to be intuitive is extremely important, because you go back to saying, and that's homework no one gets to do for you, right? That's homework you've got to do, because you need to figure out what is the balance you want in your life. What kind of lifestyle do you want? How much do different things matter for you? And when you figure that out, I think it becomes easier to say, I trust myself to know this. I also trust that there will be days when I don't know what the plan is, and that's okay. And to also self care on days where I really need to say, for today, I'm not anybody else but myself, and I need to look after me, because somewhere I need to breathe before I go forward, like doing the job that I do, or juggling the different jobs that I do. Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
something I
yeah,
think
yeah.
helped me.
Thank you, Lian. You emphasize very much on self-care and not being able to, I mean, uh, being entrepreneur cannot stick to, uh, as you said, 9 to 5 thing. It's your thing. That means you have to be always. I would say it's like like I think you have used in a private conversation. Your baby,
Yeah.
baby is not to be. Like baby caring is not like a nurse who comes in the morning and goes back in the evening on one shift and another shift comes. It's you tend to it all the time. You take care of it all the time, good days and bad days and all days, right? Good, well said. Yes, Shivli, what have you to say?
I think what both of them have said is definitely very, very important. So I will add on with some technical aspects. Um, are you hearing any disturbance in my background?
No, no.
Okay, great. This is wedding season, and there is this huge barat going next to my office. Anyways, so technicalities. Let's start with I started talking to my CA, understanding how laws companies work, if you want a sole proprietorship, startup, private practice, entrepreneur, like not sorry, an NGO, what kind of setup, that is 101, understanding the difference between a job with like CTC and contractual based work, commission based work, understanding different kinds of jobs, understanding different kinds of roles. So I learned how to make a website, how to purchase domains, server hosting. I understood basics of design. I learned digital marketing. What are the basics of digital marketing? I learned SEO, which is search engine optimization, organic marketing. I learned what else did I learn? I learned copywriting. I learned video editing. I learned capturing videos, like photography and video, like capturing that. I learned note making and planning. I learned financial projections and what are the things that you need to go to an investor and ask for money and funding. I learned what are shares, equities, dividends in a firm. I learned, yeah, basically all of that, how to keep a calendar and how to keep going with this. So I'm just giving you these terminologies. So if people want to know, they can Google these terms and start from there. Also, Google has this amazing Google Fundamental of Digital Marketing Garage things. It's amazing. It's a very wonderful course. People can do these things and learn. I learned that mental health and technology can work so brilliantly together, and currently I am in the very close to making a wonderful platform for the new age psychologists for making their setting up their private practice online. So these are things that you have to do, and you can't just be doing what you already know and hope that you are going to become an entrepreneur with that. Because one of the things which one of my first persons told me was, if you think that you're a psychologist then that will make you a good business person, you are mistaken. I also learned how to pitch an idea and how to negotiate and how to close a deal. These are three different things.
So many things.
So yeah, so these are the things that you have to learn, because if you are also hiring somebody, you need to know if they are saying the truth or they are not. If you are hiring a designer, you need to know what a good design is, you know so these are the things which come with being an entrepreneur. So like you're saying, I think, I'm sure both of you, when you're saying 9 to 5 and after that, maybe after the session or before a call, you have to read up these things and maybe you have to know what is what. So yeah, I don't know how many things I've told, but this is what you have to do as homework.
Thank you, Shivli. I think Leanne and Akriti will definitely agree with this. Fundamentals of being entrepreneur, business, legal and financial and what I should say, commercial or whatever such, and also technical aspects, like you mentioned about digital marketing, website, maybe also even social media. I mean, you talked about digital marketing. There are so many things. So let me therefore jump to this one fundamental question. Do you think, the PG training prepares you to be an entrepreneur? What do you think? You mentioned so many skills. I mean, some of them are there in you potentially, but what if somebody, I mean, we have 60 students this year in the second year, in 4 5 months, and they will complete their course. Why not? Maybe some of them want to really start up and do something. So, what do you think as what shall we say that uh, uh, building future entrepreneurs? They should learn on their own. What could college provide? What are your thoughts on this? Maybe Akriti have something to say, and maybe Lian will add to that, and Shivli will continue. Yeah.
Um, I think it's really interesting what Shivli just mentioned, because if you want to start on your own, it's so important for you to keep upskilling yourself. And that is a process that, it's like a never ending process. Um, and I think it comes with its own set of challenges, because I also feel like as therapists, when we're studying a certain course. Now, I did my honors in psychology, and then I did my masters in counseling. And somewhere there seems to be this boundary that a therapist can only be a therapist and nothing more than that. And you have to, I think it's more than your skills. There's also this mindset shift that has to come in, where you realize things like, say, digital marketing, SEO, things like the art of negotiation. These are things that anyone can learn. I mean, a therapist can learn it as well as someone who's done their MBA can learn it. But these are things that aren't really spoken about, so we do talk a lot in colleges about things like, getting our skills better, what are the different theories we need to learn.
Exactly.
We speak about all of this, and I think we have this amazing capacity. We're like sponges. The amount of theories we've learned, it's amazing that we managed to, take in all of that knowledge. I'm sure if we had certain courses, or certain, not even courses, but even if you have experts coming in every month, to just keep like an open class where people can come in and just learn these very basic everyday things, which will help you, whether you're doing a private practice, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you've even joined another company and you're a part of a team. It'll help you no matter what. Things like how to write well, or how to present something properly, how to negotiate, how to put stuff down, how to have your thoughts down in a place, things like note taking. All of these things, it makes so much sense. I really liked where Shivli spoke about financial projections. I think as therapists, all of us, I don't know why, it's a process and we learn this pretty late in life, but we're always scared about talking about things like money, talking about finances. It's always like walking on eggshells. Even in college, I don't think in my batch, maybe things have changed now, but even then, we weren't really taught how to speak about this confidently. And I think even just learning how to talk about your finances, or how to talk about being independent in a more confident manner, can really change how we think of ourselves as working professionals, even if we decide to be just therapists, or we decide to do more than that, or we decide to expand. So I'm sure things like that in colleges would really help. And if we had that, a place where people could go and talk to different experts and just sort of ask questions, see where they would like to upskill themselves, purely also based on their interests. Like, for example, a therapist might be really interested in design, and that's awesome. Or a therapist might be really interested in marketing, and that's also great. So, purely based on their interests, also, I think that would be really nice.
Thank you, Akriti. I will ask this question to Lian. Uh, what challenges did you face while starting your venture?
So there are, like Akriti said, in fact, I agree with both Akriti and Shivli, where somewhere in our heads, the concept, and I kid you not, even at IIMB, when they referred to my organization as a business, it was almost an instant reaction where I'm like, it's not a business, right? It's beyond a business. And the rest of my colleagues and people who were with me were just like, no, it's not. It is a business. It's basically a business. But there's almost this fierce instinct to say, it's not a business. And somewhere that I had one professor who was just like, Leanne, but if you look at it, it is a business, right? And he's like, why is business a bad word? Why is talking about money such an evil thing? And I'm like, it's not that it's evil, but in our line, we do it for the heart, we do it for the soul, we do it for so much more. And somewhere it's also learning that heart and soul is as important as also financial stability. And like Akriti said, and this is something I struggled with when I first started private practice, was asking for fees, collecting fees. And you almost feel like a beggar with a begging bowl. And you're just like, Are, please pay me. And then when you need to increase your fees and you feel so guilty to put yourself out there, these are very basic skills. And I'm not saying like the Montfort course, in all honesty, is beautiful the way it is, and or at least the way it was when I was there. I have so much respect for all that we do, all of the skills that we learn. But if we look at add ons where we also say we're building professionals who can go into the world, who are equipped to say that even if you're starting a private practice, there are basic admin skills that you need to do, whether it's managing your own notes, whether it's managing your client files. And management is a large part of what we do. It's just that we don't look at it as management because in our heads, client notes is just part of the job, right? And actually beginning to use those terms where you don't feel guilty for saying I am a therapist, I don't feel guilty for putting myself out there asking for uh, what do you say, your payment, because to a large extent it's not where someone else has to tell you how to do it. And learning that is a large part of it, learning to put yourself out there. And while we are constantly teaching people to be assertive, put yourself out there, market yourself, etc., it's also about us learning to say that this is part of the job, it's not something that's outside of you, right? It's very internal. It's just that the approach needs to be cohesive rather than kept separate, right? And while I completely appreciate what we already have, my point is also to understand at a master's level, you need to know your skills. It's great to take your skills further, but first learn the basics. There are so many people who are just like, hey, let's just start and do something. And my point is, if you do not have your foundation right, and I may sound like an auntie saying this, but in all honesty, your foundation is so important. If, and I'm pretty sure Akriti will agree, and Shivali as well, that if you don't know your foundation, you can't grow from it. It's not just like I will figure it out, someday. You learn it, you work with it, you make your mistakes, you figure it out, and you slowly grow from there. Ask for support, ask for help. And there are so many of us who do what we do. It's not very difficult to put yourself out there and to start looking at it possibly as a place of personal growth and professional growth, rather than it's just, this is professional growth and it's stuck to I can only be one thing. You can be many things. I'm someone who believes that I don't want to be just one thing. I also do other things in my spare time, and all of it is important and you can have it. It's just about learning that you change your mentality, your narrative of what the world looks like for you. So I think that is a large part of it where some
Yeah.
challenges are to figure out how to take that forward.
Thank you, Lian. Thank you, Lian. Can I quickly listen to Shivli? Then we have this one question before we get into Q&A section. One question to you later on is, what are your support systems? Yeah? Can Shivli begin talking about challenges and then move on to support systems? Then Akriti and Lian can respond to that. Yes, Shivli.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge is, of course, that there is taboo. But I think more than the taboo, there is a lot of misinformation. Because I can see that there are quite a lot of different startups and like big giant companies starting tinier companies, hiring psychologists, and trying to capitalize mental health. And so there is quite a lot of like that can be a challenge for us, people who with no background of mental health becoming the CEOs and trying to get some results out of the already existing psychologists, and their clients. So that can be a huge challenge. Another challenge is that there is almost very, very less money when we are trying to earn. So for a psychologist, the other day I was talking to my team about it. The starting salary of a psychologist is 15,000, and that is when you are in a better place, or maybe 20,000. And after some 5 years of you working, you will get a salary of 40,000, which is also after 5 years of you completely dedicating yourself to it. And there is not much growth after that, because any more than that, you will be too greedy to ask for more money. And if I look at the kind of certifications you need to become one, like I have that right behind me. You have to showcase, you have to do so much of work to get those certifications, you have to put a lot of money into it. So I think that is the big challenge. And to be able to sustain yourself as an organization, and to find your thing between, but I'm charging only 500 bucks for, one session, and yet I'm not being able to scale well. So that is a very huge challenge for us as entrepreneurs to understand that, where does the mental health lie and where does the scalability lie. Where is that balance between what you can do ethically and how you can set your rules, because it's a very unorganized market. Everybody's doing everything. Especially when you see here, another huge challenge is that there are people with very less qualifications, or almost no qualifications, or very confusing qualifications, calling themselves psychologists. There is no board for us to help us out, who can back us up. There is no system in place so that we can go for like, file for malpractice, or file for even a license for that matter. So these are very systemic level problems that we need to work with. And honestly, to have have an institute who's teaching and not talking about this is something which is the problem. So to be able to have these conversations about how we can help with the Indian system and actually change the mental health system and work proactively towards it by training the students, that is the best solution that we can get.
Thank you, Shubhi.
And
Yeah. What
um,
are your support system at this moment?
yeah,
Yeah.
moving on to the support system, I think I would like to say my first support system is definitely my family, my partner, my in-laws, everybody who's surrounded by, like, who I'm surrounded by. They are huge support systems. Another is my team at Shift Density and Instinct. They are such a brilliant bunch of people. I've never met quite a lot of them before, but it's so wonderful to see them trusting me and the work that we do. I think apart from that, I would say that, to a very large extent, being an entrepreneur also means a lot of soul journey, like a lone journey, because you can't explain what you want, you can't explain what you are envisioning because it's all in your head. And you also have that fear that what if somebody takes that idea and implements it. So you have that caution. So to a very large extent, if I can tell you the truth, support system apart from family, team, friends, not much, because, and I don't think you need after that also. But then, because most of the things that I do currently are very business oriented, which is what the life of an entrepreneur will be. you know every conversation will turn into I will get back to you with a proposal, or let's talk about this in depth and see if we can collaborate. So I think knowing that that can also be a support system in general, your work and your colleagues, or people like you both who are in this field, understanding the same thing without competing, actually collaborating, that could be a nice support system.
Thank you.
So these
Thank you,
could be
Shubhi.
helpful.
Yeah. 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 What do you say, Akriti? Then I'll come back to you. Yeah. Yeah.
I think my support system has changed over time, but currently my support system is very much the team. Because I think so. At Carmine, something we always say is we're an organization run by therapists, and the team, we've all seen each other through thick and thin. Everyone sort of understands what's at stake and what everyone is going through. And as much as we work together and it's a professional relationship, I think we also really extend a lot of emotional support to everyone, because we get it, we understand what the other person is going through. So I think for a fact it's the team. And also, to a large extent, I would also like to say I think I'm my own support system. Like Shivli was saying, it is a lone journey. And you kind of just take pride in it after a while, and you start trusting your own gut and your own instinct. So I think a fact that, I speak to myself a lot. um, so yeah, I am my own support system and my team for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Shivli. Sorry, Leanne. Go ahead.
Yeah, mine's a combination of the both of what they said, because it does start with family, that is family of blood, and family of choice, which is partner and friends and everyone else who is very, very solidly backing of what we do. Professionally, it's also our mentors and guides who have been absolutely brilliant, who have been there by us and give us ideas, also nitpick, figure it out, find better ways to make us grow. And in addition to all that, of course, the team 100%, because like Kaha mind, we are therapists who support each other and we know where we're at. And I think the difference is that because it's run by therapists, we understand emotional, mental, and physical needs to take time for yourself, look after yourself, be present in a way that is entirely wholesome rather than just you are an employee, do your job and figure it out and move on. And I think that was a huge part of our learning to just say that this makes it different rather than looking at it as something that holds you back because we're not corporate enough or we're not an organization enough, to say that hey, this is a strength as well. The fact that we may not be technically trained business people, but we learn on the go, and there's so much that empathy and compassion brings into the field. And at the end of the day, like they both said, being your own support system. If at the end of the day you cannot sit with yourself, love yourself enough, care enough to say that hey, this matters, because sometimes everyone is against you and you need to be that one person who brings yourself out of it. And it's not easy, and having enough hope for our clients plus our colleagues plus our everybody, it's a lot. And if you can't have hope in yourself, you're really setting yourself up for something. And my point is, on those days, thankfully, I have people around where I know whom to turn to. And I say that's important to also figure out who those people are, because on those days, even if it's one person, to have that person you reach out to, because they are your support system. But for the days when they're not there, even when you're struggling to be your own support system, you need to go the extra mile to say, pause everything, I need to figure myself out, feel it, heal it, go through the whole journey, and then move forward to say, I'm ready to power through. You cannot power through when you are exhausted. You need to pause, slam the brakes on everything, take a time out, sort yourself out, and then go through. And that's the way I look at it, because in all honesty, at the end of the day, you need to have your own back, and that's a large part of it. And of course, colleagues, friends who can help out and be there to support and guide.
Thank you so much for so well, succinctly, very clearly sharing your ideas. John, do we have questions? Are there any questions that have come up?
Yes, Maxim, we do.
Okay. Now, sorry, there is some interruption from my end. I have allowed to drop the call at this moment. It was really pleasure being with you, listening
Thank
to
you,
you. Akriti,
Maxim.
Leanne, I've heard other times, but it's, officially in this forum as with others, it was really such a lovely thing. Even I've interacted with Shivli when she came for graduation. We had a brief chat. Akriti, I have not heard. So glad to hear that. And Sneha has come up here, and I see
Yes.
Sneha. John, I think you will take it forward. It was
Thank
really
you.
lovely
Thank you
Thank
evening.
so much for
I would
being
say
here, Maxim. Thank you
yes,
for being
yes.
here.
Thank you
thank
so much. I will
Thank you.
I will hear the later part later to the YouTube. Right? Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have
Maxim.
a
Please.
continued great evening. Yeah. Bye bye. Yes.
All right, so we have questions from me, and as they come on the YouTube channel, we'll go to that. My very first question is, what are your suggestions for new entrepreneurs in this field? Uh, Akriti, you can just start.
Sure. New entrepreneurs in as therapists, you mean, right?
Yeah, in the field of mental health, yeah.
Okay. I think it'll mostly be a summary of this entire conversation
Yeah.
that we've pretty much already had. But to just pick up stuff that has really stayed with me, upskill. Try and be very honest with yourself. And what I mean by that is know what your strengths are and what are the areas where you need to work on. It's always good to be aware, because your strengths, you sort of double down on that, and that takes you further. And then the areas that you have identified as areas where you probably need to work a little harder, you do whatever it takes to actually start learning those skills. So for sure, upskill. The second thing is don't talk to too many people. talk to a few people whose judgment you value or whose opinions you really value. You don't This is not something that you need to put up as a Facebook status and ask people to vote. Because, like, don't do that. I've seen a lot of people who try and do that, and that just creates too much noise. And the whole point of getting onto this journey is to try and minimize the noise. You got to listen to your gut also. So try to sort of do that. Like I had mentioned earlier, you're not going to get all the answers. So just jump in with, you have to take that leap. You just need to figure out what the timing of that leap is going to be like. And when you feel confident and when you listen to yourself, go for it. It's something I always believe in. There aren't any right or wrong decisions. It's just the decision that feels right to you. If not wanting to be an entrepreneur feels right to you, then don't do it. You don't do it. It's not something that you really have to do. So yeah, so please, like, sort of listen to yourself. And I think something that Leanne mentioned, which makes so much sense, and a lot of people actually don't talk about this a lot, is try and figure out what is the lifestyle that you want for yourself. I think that is so important.
So true.
Because you're also, like, your lifestyle is constantly changing once you're an entrepreneur. It's not something you can write down and say this is how it's going to be. So if you're okay with all the uncertainty that comes along the way, if you're okay with not having all the answers, if you're okay with making mistakes fabulously, then I think go for it. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Leanne, can we hear from you?
Yes. So to a large extent, it's pretty much what Akriti said. Because and I want to start off with this because I find a lot of youngsters being pressured into, I have to be an entrepreneur, I need to have a startup, and this is the field and it is booming. And my point is, if you're looking at it as that, you've got the idea wrong. If you're looking at it as I'm going to mint money because therapy is not a place where you make money, this is the wrong field for you, because this is not that, right? Because the idea is, first begin to figure out what your heart and soul is in, find out as an individual, and that is your personal effort to say, do I like this enough to be here in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, rest of my life? Because entrepreneurship, and this is something Maxim has heard me say a number of times, it is your baby and you are committed to it. And while you can of course up and quit and say this is not for me, shut it down, there's so much that comes from it that you invest in it, and it's absolute love for it, right? And if you don't have that love for it, it's very hard to sustain. So passion is extremely important, not just passion about the subject, but also all the nitty gritty stuff. And there's a lot of stuff, and I'm sure Akriti and Shivli will agree with me, there's a lot of stuff that we don't want to do, and I'm just like, this is not the part of the day that I enjoy at all. And those parts of the day are the parts that are the most important, because whether you like it or not, that is what you need to be focusing on. And you focus on it, right? And you have long hours. There are some days that are 18 days long, there are some days that are even longer, some days are short, and some days are fabulously absolute holidays, and you don't know how that happened, but you just thank your stars that one of those days happened. But the point is, even on those holidays, 9 out of 10 times you are working. My absolute favorite holiday is when I worked for 3 hours, and I'm like, it was 3 hours, and you still enjoy it because somewhere you learn to enjoy the work, right?
Yeah.
And you're just saying you enjoy it because you stop looking at it as work. You look at it as an entire lifestyle. It's a
Yeah.
revolution somewhere where you change up how you look at it and how you approach it, because this is everything, right? And somewhere to also understand for yourself that if you want to do this, don't let anyone pressure you into having to do it or not having to do it. You have an idea, even if it's a seed of an idea, right? And the reason I like IIMB so much is because we were literally an Instagram page in 2020 March. We were only an Instagram page, and now we have a team and we have all of these other things that are happening. And I'm just so grateful for the fact that it could grow, and there are people who will help you. There are free courses, there are paid courses, there are so many resources out there. All you have to do is, in addition to upskilling, is just open your eyes and look out for what you want. And whatever you want to be an art therapist, go be an art therapist. You want to be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. You want to give up this line entirely and be an entrepreneur in something else, that's fine too. But as long as your heart is in it, right? So that's what I'd say. As long as your heart is in it, follow what you want to do. And if someday you wake up and say you don't want to be a therapist, that's fine too. It's okay. Because I think a large part of it is taking that pressure off ourselves rather than adding more to it. Because on a regular day, there's enough pressure without having to add on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've personally got a lot of clarity because I've not been seeing clients ever since we started remote. So, and I've been regretting not seeing clients because I've not been able to, because we're just 3 months old. So, like, I am getting a lot of clarity for myself. So, thank you so much. Yeah, Shivli.
Yeah. Well, I have three things to add because everything else they have already sold. First is I would like to start a petition of normalizing that on any given day you would want to shut everything and just leave. On every second week I am this close to shutting shift density, shutting everything, and just even quitting the entire job. This is normal. Like every 2 weeks, sometimes every day in a week, sometimes like every other hour, you're just like, I cannot do it. And this is a very normal for an entrepreneur to feel that way, which happened to me very like which was a new thing for me, because I thought that it would be easy or I would never feel this way because I'm doing the job I love. But so normalizing that for anybody who's looking for that. Another thing is, if you are interested in starting something and you don't know how to do it, learn by probably being with somebody who can give you that experience. One thing for which I am very happy to say is, with shift density I started it as a personal brand, and then it became a startup, so now shift density is not just mine, it's of so many other people. Like the name came from me, but then everything else, every aspect of what it is today came from everybody else. So I actually am very happy if somebody comes to me, they can DM me and be like, I want to do this for your company, can I get the space to do it? And I'm just like, yeah, sure, why not? Because for me, if a person wants to start something and wants to know the how it's going to be, like the responsibility and so on and so forth, they can always come and do that. That will probably give you a clarity if you are interested in that or not, because otherwise to give your heart and soul into it and then seeing it fail or seeing it not work is definitely a very big challenge. Another and the last and the most important thing ever is finding yourself like a partner, because I'm sure that at some point in your life you would want a partner, like a spouse. It could be a spouse, it could be a non-married situation, it could be somebody who you can go home to, it could be somebody who you can talk to, anything, any kind of relationship. Finding yourself a relationship or a partner who supports you and who understands that on every second day you're going to cry about the work that you are doing which you love, and still support you and not criticize you for that. Finding yourself somebody who can not only something that I have learned, especially with my partner, he had three failed startups, and then the one currently which he's working on is working. And why shift density is working is because he had three failed startups, he learned from them, and he told me what are the things that work out. So finding somebody who can match your wavelength, not only in business wise but also personally, is extremely important, because after some point your parents will not understand the work that you are doing because it's too technical, too digital, too anything, and they might not help. Your friends will never understand because they have not been there. The most closest you can get is in an intimate relationship, and make sure that that intimate relationship counts, because if not, it will affect on your work like anything. And it's a different thing when it affects in a 9 to 5 job, it's a different thing when it affects in your startup, in your enterprise, because then it's not a 9 to 5 job, it's 24 into 7. Every time, even in my dreams, I'm thinking of what I'm going to do. I wake up and I write. So this is the thing that you're signing up for, so make sure that you're signing up with the correct person to help you.
Thank you so much for that, Shibli. And I'm so glad that you got your partner. I'm personally very happy for you. I've met him too. So, yeah. And the next question we have it from Garima. Her question is, how do you take care of your mental health as an entrepreneur? Even I wanted to ask that. So, what is this kind of self care things that you do?
I think I just said
Akriti, you can start. Oh, yeah, yeah.
crying
Oh,
sessions are amazing. Every 2 days, cry.
yes.
Yeah, so I don't think there's going to be any novelty in this answer, but I'm also in therapy. I obviously have my own therapist who I reach out to for my own mental health, not only in terms of running a business, because you're also an individual, right? Out of just running a business, you also are a person, and you have to every now and then, because I think what happens as entrepreneurs is your life becomes so much about the business that you're running that regularly being in therapy for me is a space where I stop and I see where I am at, what my growth is like, how I am feeling, all of that, apart from just the business. And I think that really helps because what that does is it makes sure that my cup is always full. It makes sure that I'm always recharged because when you're running a business, it can be really tiring sometimes. It can really take a lot out of you. So, having my own personal therapy sessions is something that really helps. Apart from that, of course, things that make you feel good. Anything that you genuinely enjoy, anything that gives you joy is something that's good for your health, right? It's something that makes you feel happy. So even if it's things like, taking a walk or exercising or whatever it is, I think all of us with time have our own self-care routines that we've created, and these are obviously these are routines that keep changing, but making sure that you have a routine is important because it's very easy to sort of slip into this autopilot mode. And I noticed, at least during the pandemic, I spent a lot of it in this autopilot mode. It was just easier, because you're not consciously thinking about your health. You're just doing what you need to do because you know it's the right thing to do. But you can't keep doing that, and it's not really sustainable. So taking care of your health is so important because if you're not able to do that, then you will not be able to just to be a fully functioning individual, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, that is secondary. So I think just having a self-care routine in place is really important. Reaching out to people, having someone who you can talk to is important. I'm not saying you have to be in therapy. I'm just saying that's something that's really helped me along the way. But even if you're not in therapy, you need to have people who you can speak to, people who you can reach out to. Because all these things, what it basically does more than anything is it just helps us stay aware of ourselves. And I think the self awareness is such an important tool that we don't that gets we sort of undermine it a lot, but actually it's more like a superpower to just know where you're at, what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what you want to avoid, all of that. So I think these are some ways in which that I have learned to take care of my mental health.
Thank you. That was so beautifully said. Thank you so much. And before we go further, we have two more questions. Is it okay? We're already running past the time. Is it okay? Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah, you can
All right.
go.
So for me, one of the things that, like Akriti said, personal therapy helps, and personal therapy almost always I try not talking about work because like she said, it's very important to humanize yourself, right? Being an actual human, where you say there's stuff outside of work, which then leads me to two things that I practice on a regular basis, and this is something I insist on for my clients and my team, where I'm like, you need at least 1 hour a day, 30 minutes is minimum, where you give to yourself to do whatever you want. Your brain switches off and you're just engaging in activities that not just give you joy, but where you're expressing, whether it's art or dance or music. And more than saying, I will do only this every day because I like it, switch it up, change it up, and pay attention to your body. What is it that you need for yourself in that moment? Today, I may want ice cream, tomorrow I may want art, and day after I may want to paint, and that's perfectly okay. But you do what you need in that moment because you know you best, right? The second thing is, if in that 1 hour you can possibly switch off entirely for half an hour where you're just being mindful, whatever it is, right? Give entirely to yourself, because even if it's giving yourself a foot massage where you're just saying, I don't talk to other people, this is me for me. I'm not interacting, I'm not thinking of work, I'm not taking calls, I'm not with my phone, I'm not with anyone else but myself, because I need to unwind. And this is something I practice actively, where I will not immediately call someone after session. I'm very clear, take that break for me, see that I disengage, see that I soothe, see that I self love, and then engage with my people. So there's no projection, there's no displacement. You're not taking out all of your frustration on someone, but you give yourself that sort of shield, let it down, say, I'm a human, give yourself that, validate it, then go out. And that's something I believe really helps, because actually having that space to say, I am a human too, is ridiculously important at the end of the day. And while you can have all the people around you validate it, to also just validate it for yourself on the good days, on the bad days, especially the ugly days, because those days you really need to feel your strongest. That's what I do.
Wow. Thank you. I've noted it down as work-life balance to do. Thank
Yes,
you. Thank
very
you so
important. And where you're cutting off from work for at least half an hour.
much. Yeah, me time basically. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Shilly, do you have anything to add?
Just one thing, because both of them said most of the points that I would have said or any would have. So one thing is having mentors or having people who understand the other side of things, who understand the business, the finance, the operational, HR, all of those side of things. Having people to talk to on on those levels is also very very important, which sometimes, because I feel like, see, we all understand how anxiety works. I don't have to give an extra 2 minutes to do that. So we all understand that because of uncertainty of the nature of the business, we are all anxious, right? So having therapy can help with the behavioral aspects of your life, but having a mentor who gives that clarity is eventually what you need, apart from that, right, to clear that anxiety. So finding those people or seeking out for those kind of mentors is very important. And I feel like especially something that is a personal thought is that a lot of people think that you can't approach other people who are so called very big deal. And this is something which happened to me very 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 recently, that I've been very closely associated with Dr. Kiran Bedi, and I'm working with her on some projects. So for me it was a very very huge problem that how can I speak with her about asking her to help me out. And when I spoke to her, she had the same problems that I did. So knowing that you can always approach somebody, and talk to them on a very humane level, and they can be entrepreneurs, they can be doing whatever, but the struggles are going to be the same for you, so you can always ask somebody to be there, to be your mentor. And that is something, that is a culture that we need to build, asking to be a mentor and a mentee. I feel that is not there in India, because I feel like most of the people already think that they know everything. There is that extreme, and then there is the extreme of people who will doubt everything that they do, with extra anxiety on the top. So I think we need to balance that.
Thank you so much, Shilly. I had Hall of Fame music in my mind when you were talking. The lyrics were just going in my mind. Thank you so much. Okay, we're the last few questions. How have your priorities changed from when you started? Akriti, you can start.
Can
How
you
has
please
your
repeat the
yeah,
question?
yeah. How has your priorities changed from when you started? Have they changed since you started? Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I think priorities are always changing. I'm going to talk more in terms of like Kaha mind, right? So in the beginning, it was more about getting it off, letting people know that something like this exists. It was about just understanding whether this made sense in society, what we also call product market fit. So does this product really fit in the market? Do people really want something like this? So earlier it was all about that. Now I think the challenges or the priorities are more about things like hiring people who are better than you, creating a team that is really strong, having an idea of what the next 2 years are going to look like, things like that. So I think priorities keep changing as an organization grows. As sometimes, even when you start a company, You start with one idea in mind, and then eventually, sometimes you'll always also notice that you pivot. And when that happens, your priorities are changing even then. So I think priorities are something that keeps changing, and that's not such a bad thing, because that's also showing progress. That's also showing that there is some movement, you are moving the needle. So that is one thing for sure. That is, of course, more on a very professional front. On a more personal front, also priorities change, because again, when you're starting off, you're trying to find validation, right? You're looking at people just saying, okay, fine, she knows what she's doing, she's got that. After a while, you stop really looking for validation outside. It's more of like internal validation, and you get to that point as well. So I think your priorities are changing there also. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rose. I'm just processing everything. So, Alian, you can
Yeah,
take
so it's very similar to what she said. Personally and professionally, your priorities change, and depending on the moment, you also sometimes choose to prioritize between the personal and the professional based on what's important. And the reason I'm saying it's also so, since Akriti covered that, I don't want to get into the same topic, but focus on there are times when you have to prioritize the personal over the professional, and on those days, you're prioritizing between your baby and the personal, and that can seem like a lot. And it's important in that moment to say it's for today, it's not for the rest of time, and it's not that I'm priority or not giving others priority, right? While also not forgetting that I am a big part of the priority list as well, because the day you forget you exist is the day you're burning out. And if you burn out, there is no you to see that all the other uh, parts have you, right? So my point is to look at priorities not as they are fixed, they are scheduled, they are checklists where you say, I will check this off and I will feel like I have attained what I need to attain, but actually look at it as it's something fluid. For today, this is, and this is literally how it starts, because early I'd wake up saying, oh my god, what new challenges do I have in the morning? And I'm someone who loves my Mondays. I start work at 8 in the morning. Yeah, Monday morning 8 a.m. is my first session, and I love my days. But I noticed in between, I'm just like, oh, what new challenge do I have? And I'd wake up hating Mondays. And I'm like, no, there are going to be challenges. You wake up and you say, this is what it is today, and how am I going to deal with it? And if I do it, great, fantastic. And if I don't, that's fine too. And if today there's a personal emergency, I am prioritizing the personal. And if there's a professional emergency, I'm prioritizing that. But learning to be fluid about it, because that fluidity is so essential to functioning, right? And that, I think, is the gist of a lot of what we've all said here today. Learning to be fluid with your priorities, because if you say it's only this or it's only that, or I'm a bad person, and bring judgment into the whole thing, bring shame and guilt, you're never going to go forward. But learning to actually empathize and be compassionate with yourself and your priorities and what you want to prioritize, even if that's nothing at all on a certain day, that's perfectly okay. So sometimes to also prioritize the nothing. Yeah. Thanks, John.
thank you. I do that now. I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen today? So I go into that panic mode. So it's like, oh
Yeah,
my God, okay.
it
I
happens.
understand where you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, no, you will get there. All you have to change it to is it's going to happen. So instead of sitting and panicking for it, when it happens, I will deal with it. Changes it
yeah.
entirely. Gave me a lot of peace
Thank
in this
you.
work.
Thank you. Yeah. Shibli?
I think both of them said it all, so I have nothing much to add. But one thing which we do at our space is every Saturday is a work from home day. So, every Saturday is the day that I go, like, this is the first Saturday actually I've come to office. And most of the Saturdays I'm usually networking and, doing other things and so on and so forth. So, having that in your routine would be important. So for me, I think they both have said it also. I don't have much to add. They both are way I think way older with regards to entrepreneurship, so they have done it all. They
We
can say it.
actually we got incorporated in May 2021. So we've just from May till now is our,
Oh.
so I'm busier than all of you if you look at on.
Yeah.
I have therapist experience, the entrepreneurship
Ha,
is ahead of me.
ha, correct. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shibli. And the last question, it's from me. It's not to do with anything very serious. How did you guys pick your name, like Shift Density or Unboxed or like Kaha Mind? The story of your name. I'm just very curious. So, yeah, that's the last question for me. Anyone can start.
Okay.
Shivli, do you want
So,
to go? Yeah.
oh, Shivli can go.
No, no,
Fine.
because she's been going last all the time. So Shivli, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
start.
Please, actually, let her go. Please.
Yeah.
I was actually waiting, ki, okay, people will say. So this is actually a very funny conversation. It started when I was dating people, and a lot of these dates would not go nicely, you know. And there was this repulsion that I used to have with the dates, or the dates used to have with me, because on even a first date, I would talk about extremely intense topic like mental health and trauma and growth and all of these things. So that's not a first date conversation which I got to know as a feedback. So I was very upset, and I was cribbing about it to a friend, and talking about how people don't understand this intensity that I have. It's like Shibli's intensity that I have. The shift density is very big, and like people, like the minute people understand that there is a shift density, they will accept me and my work and everything. So I kept on going on and on about it, and it became like a funny joke for all of us that yeah, Shivli is going to talk about shift density. And I started the page in 2019. I started a page in 2019, which later turned into a company. So, to shift density, it is Shibli's intensity. And I genuinely thought that it was going to be a pun which, people talk about and they'll forget. I never thought at that time that it's going to be a company with like a logo and like, things where it's going to be printed on. So yeah, but I think for me, intense conversations are the most amazing ones, and that is where the whole tagline that each dialogues matter is important, that each intense dialogue matters to break these stigma and taboo. So that's how I got the name.
Wow. I would have never thought of this. I thought, okay, some story, but wow, this is interesting. Thank you,
Casual
Shivli. Thank you
dating.
so much.
You will
Yeah,
get the next startup
damn.
idea then.
Thank you, Shivli. Yes, Leanne, you can go now.
Right. So the unopened box is something that is very, very personal to me, and I think the work that I do, because I work with a lot of trauma cases. I've been working trauma cases at least for the past 7 years, right? And during that, I've noticed where different people at different points are put into these tiny boxes, and everyone likes having labels slapped on them. And there's nothing that bothers me more than all the labels being slapped on each other. And I realize that everyone sort of like every time they go through a life event, they put themselves into smaller, smaller, smaller boxes, and it just becomes so tiny that no one has a space to grow. So at the unopened box, our idea is to unbox your potential, to actually get you out there, get you out of your head, get you out of your self-limiting beliefs, get you out of your own inhibitions, to actually unbox the person you are, so that tomorrow, that when you go out, you are your fullest, most empowered self, and you are everything that you want to be, right? Whether you want to be a dancer, a singer, a therapist, and all of it together, while also being a serious corporate person who's leading an organization, blah blah blue, and whatever else comes, you can do all of it just to like unbox yourself. So that's how the unopened box got its name, through empowerment and actually discovering who you are and going inwards or
Wow.
outwards.
That's so,
So
can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's really nice. I didn't guess. I was like, okay, I must have something, but I didn't think about what it could be. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And Akriti, yes, Kaha Mind. A page
Yeah.
that all of us from college have been fans of. Yeah, go on.
So honestly, it was really difficult to find a name. Um, I went through so many names before Kaha Mind actually happened. And how it happened was I was reading something online. I don't even remember what, and it was an article about the Maori tribe in New Zealand, and there they do the haka dance, right? And this haka dance is like something that they perform before going on for a big event. And in the haka dance there is a term called kia kaha, which actually means encouragement. So you know how we say all the best or good luck, In New Zealand, they say kia kaha. So that is where I took kaha from. So kaha mind, which is more like encouraging the mind to be whatever it needs to be. And that is how the term came about. So it's, yeah, kaha mind comes from there.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I googled yesterday and I couldn't find a meaning. So I was
Yeah,
like, I
I
checked your
thought.
website also. I checked your website. I was like, okay. But I was just curious. So yeah, thank you. So we're at the close. We're really sorry that it extended by around almost
That's
27
fine.
minutes.
This
Thank you
was
so
fun.
much for being
This was a lot of
here.
fun. Yeah,
This is amazing.
yeah.
Yeah,
For
and
having us.
so a lot of takeaways. I'm not going to through my whole notes, but I just wanted to pick one thing that I am going to take away personally today, and I would want everybody watching to take away. It is to trust your gut feeling. Speak. Go inward and follow your intuition. That's what I'm taking away from today, and I hope everybody's got their own takeaways for the day. Thank you so much once again for being with us, Akriti, Shivli, and Leanne. Had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time, and special thanks to our whole team. We're around, I think, 17 of us, I think, the whole Montfort alumni team. Sneha, Varsha, thank you all for everything that you guys do. Sneha and Varsha, always been inspiring my seniors from college. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much. And also keep everybody informed that you can write to us and you can ask your doubts. Our mail ID is sampurna.montfort.alumni@gmail.com. It will be there on the comment box also. So if you have any more doubts, do write to us. And keeping you all informed that next week, next Saturday at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time IST, we have the PhD scholars currently pursuing in the field of psychology. We'll have a discussion with them. So see you all then. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you all.
Bye.
Thank you for joining
Bye.
in.
Thanks. Bye.
Ah.